Elville and Associates presents a client care program continuing legal education event. Social Security and Retirement Planning, a hit or myth proposition. The following presentation is for educational purposes only. It is not intended as legal advice or as a substitute for legal advice or legal counseling, and does not create an attorney-client relationship.
Okay, good morning everyone, and happy Saturday. And thank you for coming out, and we're very pleased to have you today. And just know that we are very casual here. We've got the cameras rolling, but please feel free to go in down. The restrooms are outside. Jeff's going to explain that. The food is in the back, drinks are in the back. So we welcome you here today to our postponed event in December. Maybe I shouldn't stand too close. And thank you for bearing with us through the snow and the bad weather. And we're very excited to have Mr. Zarnowski here from Boston, who Jeff is going to formally introduce in just a moment. So I'm going to keep my remarks very brief. What you're here today to do is to continue to learn and make your planning work. That's the whole theme of our client care program. So whether you're a Gary Greenwald client or an Elville and Associates client, welcome. And along those lines, always remember that you can bring your family and friends. So we always want you to bring your guests or family and friends whenever you would like. And for those of you who have not had a family meeting yet at our firm, and you're part of the CCP program, make sure that you contact either Gary at his firm or Mary Day Kramer at my firm to have your family meeting if you haven't had that yet. And if you haven't had your annual update yet, remember that at my firm, Mary is going to contact you to have that update meeting. We're going to make sure we always contact you and keep you informed, and Gary will do the same for his clients. Also, if there are specific issues that you're having and you want them worked out or something has not been resolved as part of your planning, make sure that's what part of your membership is for us to resolve those issues on an ongoing basis for you. So remember that we're committed to do that. Okay, a couple of other updates. I recently rented a production studio in Annapolis, Maryland. So in central Annapolis, right off of Chinquapin Round Road, we now have a video and audio production studio. What does that mean to you? That means that if you would like to do an archival legacy video, if we want to call that, to speak to your family through video or your goals and values and so forth that you would like them to know about, please let us know, because that's now part of your CCP membership. So if you want to do that, you're welcome to do that, and you can contact Jeff or I to do that. Jeff is going to talk a little bit more about our April 28th event, which is tax reform. So by then, I guess the government is going to be back up and running. I know Glenn said this morning, they're going to be back up and running by Monday. So hopefully that's the case. But I'm going to go next week down to Orlando to listen to the greatest minds in the country, I guess, talk about tax reform and get my mind around it. And I'm going to come back and we're going to carry on top of this as well. And we're going to share our thoughts with you on April 28th. So we'll be right back here, as far as I know, April 28th at the same time. And we may bring a CPA as well. We may have this roundtable discussion with the estate planning side, the income tax planning side, and we'll bring the CPA as our plan. So with that, Jeff, I'm going to let you introduce Mr. Zarnowski. Oh, by the way, many of you are wearing your favorite jerseys. As you can see, I chickened out. But Mr. Zarnowski was going to wear his Patriots jersey. And I just thought that was hilarious. But anyway, he says he has it out of his car. But anyway, here you go, Jeff.
Thank you, Steve. It's great to see such a wonderful turnout today, and thank you for your commitment to your planning and being part of our firms and Mr. Greenwald's firm's client care programs. I see a lot of great jerseys out there. I see one Maryland jersey out there. Thank you so much for supporting the red, black, gold, and white. Go Terps. I should have worn mine today. And I also wanted to acknowledge our newest attorney is here today, Miss Megan McCulloch. You want to stand up? Megan specializes in social security issues and social security disability issues, and she works out of our Baltimore office. So welcome Megan to the firm. She's been here for about 4 months, I guess, at this point. So it's been a pleasure getting to know Megan, and I'm sure some of you may end up working with her as well. So it's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Kurt Zarnowski here as our primary speaker today. Mr. Zarnowski is currently the principal of Zarnowski Consulting, a retirement planning firm which provides expert answers to your Social Security questions. Mr. Zarnowski is the former Regional Communications Director for the Social Security Administration in New England, a position he held from December 1991 until his retirement at the end of 2010. He began his career with the SSA in 1976, and during his 34 years with the agency, he worked with several different management and staff positions in the Boston area. As Regional Communications Director, Mr. Zarnowski was responsible for coordinating the Social Security Administration's public affairs and public information activities in the 6 New England states. In this role, he was a frequent speaker at local and regional events for members of the public. He wrote the chapter on Social Security and retirement planning for the book, The 6 Secrets to a Happy Retirement, which was published by the ATA Press in March 2013. He is also a regular contributor to Retirement Weekly, a MarketWatch publication, and his answers to readers' Social Security questions are seen in both the print and online publications of USA Today. In March 2011, he joined the board of directors of the Massachusetts Association of Older Americans and is currently serving his 3rd year as president of that organization. He also serves on the Massachusetts Money Management Project Statewide Advisory Council and is a member of the New England Pension Assistant Projects Advisory Board, a native New Englander and a Patriots fan. Mr. Zarnowski received his bachelor's degree in history from Hamilton College in Clinton, New York, a master's degree in public administration from Northeastern University. He lives in Norfolk, Massachusetts with his wife Ann, and we're very pleased to have him here today. Mr. Kurt Zarnowski, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. Good to be here. Jeff said here, Kurt Zarnowski, currently the principal in Zarnowski Consulting. Those 1 or 2 in the room that are intimately familiar with us, proud to say we're an international consulting firm whose world headquarters conveniently located in the basement of my house in Norfolk, Massachusetts. But don't worry, at Zarnowski Consulting, we always say we provide expert answers to your Social Security questions. Why can I say that simple? Jeff referenced, I worked for the Social Security Administration for 34 years, last 20 years of my career. I was a communications director in New England, which meant I spent my time out talking to folks about the program. And here's what I found out. Believe it or not, the Social Security program is now a little over 82 years old. And each and every month, the Social Security Administration pays about $77 billion in benefits. About 42 million people. On top of that, there's another 173 million folks, like many of you in this room, are now out there working and paying into the program. And what I saw during my time with the agency, and not on my own, is despite the age of the program, despite the size of the program, despite the economic impact that Social Security has in this country today, unfortunately, the myths and misunderstandings that are out there about what it is as well as what it isn't, frankly, staggering. It's huge. Nobody knows nothing about the program. That's why I'm really excited. Accept the invitation to spend the next 7 or 8 hours with you. Hey, don't worry, there's dinner coming too. I'll spend a little time talking about some things I think it's important for you to know about what the program is, perhaps equally importantly what it isn't. Why it's so important these days? Simple 2 words: baby boomers. 75 million bucks. Baby boomers storming towards retirement, just not starting to wake up to the fact that the retirement world staring us in the face is different than faced by parents and their grandparents. We're starting to recognize that the Social Security program as a guaranteed stream of lifetime income may well be a bigger part of our retirement income than we had ever anticipated. We're also recognizing we don't know as much about the program as we should. So scrambling to catch up. So in our time together today, I want to give you some good, solid information, help you better understand what the program is, help you also recognize what it isn't, and set you down the road to that comfortable retirement we all hope to enjoy. Okay, most important slide in the deck is going to be this one. You'll hear it referred to it over and over again. Key message for me: people need to understand that the Social Security program was created about 82 plus years or so ago. It was put in place designed to provide you simply with a base or foundation of income that you can count on being there for you each month. but it's a base or foundation of income that you must take steps to supplement because it was never intended to be anyone's sole source of income in retirement. But unfortunately, these days, about 23% of retiree households, the social security money that comes into them each month is virtually the only income they have. Terrible situations. I avoid that happening to you. Simple. By planning for your retirement, you'd be commended. Take the time out of your busy schedule. Spend a little time here this morning planning for retirement, learning about Social Security. Now, for the longest time, the Social Security Administration tried to play a very active role in helping you plan for your retirement. Because back in the day, they used to mail you on an annual basis a paper document, a Social Security statement. Statements start going out back in 1999. They've got an annual basis. Anyone who was 25 years of age or older would ever paid into the program or was not yet collecting benefits. That statement would show up in your mailbox like clockwork about 3 months before your birthday each and every year. That statement, as you recall, used to give you important retirement planning information, benefit estimates at 3 ages, 62, your full retirement age of 70. The other thing you did so well was provide you a nice year-by-year breakout. What Social Security had recorded as your work and earnings under the program. And it was really important to get that statement and particularly to review the earnings history there, because we'll see in a little bit what you eventually collect each month is directly related to what your work and earnings have been. So a mistake had occurred in crediting you with some of your earnings. It was important to catch it and correct it, because if you didn't, it would have direct impact on what you eventually received. You may have noticed, hey, I haven't got one of those in the mail every year lately. What's the deal? Well, Social Security has changed the way they distribute Social Security statements. And first and foremost, they no longer mail paper documents on an annual basis to everyone over the age of 25. Instead, what they've done first and foremost is put in place a system whereby if you go to www.socialsecurity.gov/myaccount, take about 10 or 15 minutes or so, set up your own individual Social Security account. A byproduct of having that account in place is you'll be able to download the Social Security statement for yourself whenever you want one. And I encourage you to do that if you haven't done it yet. But Social Security has also said they've decided to resume mailing paper documents, but on a very limited basis. And here they say right now is that if you are 60 years of age or older and haven't set up your own Social Security account, they will mail you a paper statement, same old schedule, about 3 months before your birthday on an annual basis. But that's it for mailings. So anyone under the age of 60, the only way you can get a Social Security statement is by setting up that individual Social Security account. But my view is whether you're 60 or older, I think it makes sense to set up that Social Security account because you're going to come in, meet with some folks, do some retirement planning. Having a current Social Security statement in hand is going to make that a more worthwhile exercise. So if you haven't set up your account, I encourage you to do that. Important byproduct right now, you will be able to get a Social Security statement for yourself whenever you want. And just think about the statement, as I mentioned. Get your benefit estimates only at 3 ages. 62, your full retirement age of 70. And in preparing the estimate in the statement, because Social Security has no idea what your future work plans are, it makes the calculation on an assumption that you're going to keep working, make the same amount of money you made for the past couple of years. We know as well as I do when planning for retirement, may be interested in collecting benefits in something other than just those 3 ages. You'd also be interested in figuring out what would happen to your Social Security benefit if you, I don't know, quit work on Monday and never went back to work. Or maybe went part-time in another couple of years. So I'll remind you about another planning tool you should avail yourself of. It's Social Security's online retirement estimator. Really, the estimator is you work with your own Social Security earnings record without the need to go back and key in all of your prior year earnings like you have to do with certain other commercial software products. But now with the online estimator, you can develop what-if scenarios. Your heart's content. You want to find out how much you get each month from Social Security if you started to collect it, I don't know, 64 and a half, or 68 and 8 months, or whatever age you're interested in. And or you can find out what would happen to your Social Security benefit if you did indeed quit work on Monday. Or maybe you went part-time next year, perhaps even took a second job. So both of those retirement planning tools, the online statement, the online estimator, you should take advantage of those. Both designed to help you recognize programs going to get you this base, this foundation, but hopefully you'll also realize, I need to find ways to supplement what I'm going to get from Social Security because it was never intended to be your only source of income in retirement. And obviously, the sooner you start to take those steps, to supplement your Social Security, the more likely you are to have that comfortable retirement we all hope for. So, a quick review: how do you get coverage and protection under Social Security? You do because you work in a job where Social Security or payroll tax is deducted from your pay. You as an employee pay 6.2%, your employer matches that. If you're self-employed, you have the privilege of paying both the combined employer-employee rate. Now, the question is though, sure, I'm working in the job where I'm paying into the Social Security program. How long do I need to work in order to qualify for benefits? In other words, how long do I need to work in order to vest in the program? A little bit of history. When Social Security started back in 1835, they talked about earning what were called Social Security quarters of coverage. They were the abbreviation QCs. And back in the day, they covered and protected under Social Security if you worked in a job under Social Security during a calendar quarter of the year, you made at least $50 during that calendar quarter. Because there's 4 quarters in a calendar year, you could earn a maximum of 4 quarters of coverage if you made at least $50 during each one of those calendar quarters. But to qualify for those 4 quarters, you need to work throughout the entire year. Well, in 1978, though, Congress changed the system, made it easier for folks to qualify for Social Security benefits because they moved away from this calendar-driven system of quarters of coverage. So now you get coverage and protection by earning what are called credits. Excuse me. When the system changed in 1978, you would earn 1 Social Security credit for every $250 in earnings that you had subject to Social Security during the course of the year, no matter when you made it. Because you could still earn a maximum of 4 credits during a calendar year. It meant that year, for example, you had earnings of $1,000 or more, you earned your 4 Social Security credits for that year's worth of work. The passage of time, amount of money required to accrue credit has increased. This year you get 1 credit for each $1,320 that you make, again, in the job covered by Social Security. Again, it doesn't matter when you make it, but because you can still earn a maximum of 4 credits. This year, you have earnings of $5,280 or more in a job covered by Social Security. You're going to accrue your 4 Social Security credits for this year. The bottom line is, once you've accumulated 40 quarters of coverage and or credits, the good news is you are now vested, if you will, in the Social Security program. You're insured for benefit, and you will absolutely, positively get something from Social Security each and every month when the time comes. We'll talk about what when the time comes means. We'll talk about how much of that's going to be in a second. But with 40 credits, you get your foot in the door, you're always going to get something. So what happens if you don't accrue 40 credits? Well, unfortunately, you can't qualify for any benefit based on your own work earnings. But it may be possible to collect based on the work and earnings of your spouse. And we'll talk about how that system works as well. So 40 credits, the equivalent of 10 years of work under the system. Excuse me, that's what gets your foot in the door. You have to earn 4 credits in a year. No, you can't earn more than 4. You have to earn 40 consecutive. No, 1 here, 2 here, going all the way back to your very first job. And once you get 40, you get your foot in the door and you're always going to get something. So that's how you qualify for benefits. So let's talk about retirement benefits. Excuse me, thank you. No, I've got water here. Let's talk about retirement benefits. The big question people ask these days is, well, when should I take my money? So understand this, some of the rules of the program. You get choices, you've got options. What I can try and do today is make sure that you understand what those choices and options are. In other words, I can help you understand what you can do under the program. But ultimately deciding what you should do, it's your choice, your decision. I can't tell you what you should do. But my view is, unless and until you fully understand what you can do, you're in a position to decide what you should do. So let's make sure you fully understand your choices and options. And as we go through the exercise, I always say, you need to start by making sure you know what is called your full retirement age for Social Security purposes. When the program started back in 1935, Congress said full retirement age is the month you turned age 65. And it was that for everybody without exception. And it continued to be age 65 until 1983, when Congress changed the law, increased Social Security full retirement age for anyone born 1938 or later. Increase has gradually been phased in over time. We're at the point where for a big chunk of us baby boomers, and it was born between 1943 and 1954, our Social Security full retirement age is the month we turn age 66. And it's important to note that under current law continues to increase beyond that. Tops out anyone born 1960 or later as a Social Security full retirement age is the month you turn age 67. Now, understand this, collecting at full retirement age, that isn't your only choice, it isn't your only option. But make sure you know what yours is, because you'll see as we go through the discussion, a lot of features of the program flow from at least having reached your full retirement age, to make sure you know your own individual full retirement age. Now, the rules of the program, oh, there's a little nip of something in there. A little Irish coffee is right. Under the rules of the program, you have to start taking your money the month you hit your full retirement age. That means one thing and one thing only. It means you'll collect 100% of the amount your work earnings entitle you to draw. We'll talk in a second how that all gets figured. And that's what full retirement age is, 100% of your work earnings. But among the options you have to start before full retirement age, if that makes sense for you. And under the rules of the program, you have a lot of choices. And you can start as early as age 62 if you choose to do so. And here's the thing, Social Security, as the name implies, is a social insurance program. And so Congress has built certain social goals into it. And one is to hope that everyone ends up with roughly the same amount of total lifetime benefits, regardless of when they start to draw them. So under the rules of the program, you have to start taking your money before you've reached your full retirement age. By starting earlier, in theory, then you'll now be collecting for a longer period of time. So you're gonna find that you get less on a monthly basis. How much less? It's roughly 0.5% per month less. For each month prior to your full retirement age, you have to collect 0.5% per month, about a 6% per year haircut by starting to take your benefits early. And oh yeah, by the way, it's a permanent reduction. None of those myths that are out there, too many folks mistakenly think, yeah, I know I'll start early, I'll get less. But as soon as I hit my full retirement age, my payment will zoom up. No, a permanent reduction. Theory being you're starting earlier, therefore likely collecting for a longer period of time, so you're gonna be less on an individual monthly basis. Incidentally, you don't need to start on your birthday. Don't need to start the first of the calendar year. Whatever point you want makes sense for you, that's when you can start, but understand, you have to start taking your money before you've reached your full retirement age. You get less for the rest of your life. As I mentioned, full retirement age, that's when you get 100%. But among the options you have are way past your full retirement age before starting, if that makes sense for you. And with that social insurance idea in place, if you think about it, now if you opt to defer for a little bit, in theory, you'll now be collecting for a shorter period of time. So by all rights, if you waited, your monthly amount ought to be increased, right? And it is. These are called delayed retirement credits. And for each month past your full retirement age, they go up not to collect your own retirement benefit. You're gonna find your payment has now been permanently increased by 0.2%. 0.2% per month increase, that translates into an 8% per year increase by waiting. But again, you don't have to not collect for a full year to accrue these delayed retirement credit for each month you defer. Benefit permanently increase. But the key thing is this. These delayed retirement credits only accrue from full retirement age until age 70. Understand this, under the rules of the program, you never have to take your Social Security benefits. Not like there's a required minimum distribution or anything like that. And in fact, more of you in this room would cowboy up and not take your money. The system might not be faced with some of the, you're not buying that for a second. Let me give you an example to illustrate what we're talking about. Got somebody at the full retirement age of 66. And let's say at the full retirement age of 66, she'd receive $1,000 a month. What are her choices? What are her options? I'll oversimplify the example. We'll factor in cost of living increase. Say she wants to start right at the earliest point, right at age 62. At age 62, she receives 75% of the amount she'd receive if she waited until full retirement age. In other words, starting at age 62, doesn't get $1,000 a month. No, she gets $750 per month in continuum. Well, yeah, she's getting $250 less each month than she'd receive if she waited. But the trade-off, obviously, starts to receive that lower amount sooner, and in theory, collects it for a longer period of time. We'll say she wants to wait start at age 63. Her payment would be higher with a reduction factor. Works out at age 63, she'd get $800 a month in continuum. Wait till her full retirement age of 66. That's when she gets the full $1,000 a month that her work and earnings entitlement to receive. Let's say she wants to wait a little bit because that makes sense for her. Wants to wait 1 year, start at age 67. And 1 year worth of deferral means her payment when she starts to take it, it's going to be 8% higher each month, meaning your benefit's going to be $1,080 per month in continuing. She waits all the way until age 70, accrues the maximum of 4 years worth of delayed retirement credits, means the payment she starts to collect is now going to be 32% higher than her full retirement age amount, an 8% increase for each of those 4 years she's waited. By the way, it's simple interest, not compounded. But it means her payment at age 70 is $1,320 per month in continuum. Well, say she wants to wait and start at age 72. Still give you that $1,320, right? Because there are no additional delayed retirement credits past age 70. Bottom line is your choice, your decision. What are the things you ought to be thinking about? You know as well as I do, your health for one, huh? Longevity. For a second factor, I always like to ask, you come from a family of long liver? Or do you come from a family of short pancreases? Hey. That's a line out of the movie Goodbye Columbus, 40-something years ago. You need the money, you're gonna keep working. All those factors come into play. The whole idea always used to be based on average life expectancy. Really shouldn't matter. But you know what, life expectancy is increasing. Social Security numbers say if you're a 65-year-old man today on average, you'll live to age 84. 65-year-old woman on average, you'll live to age 86. But even more telling to me, Social Security numbers say today's 65-year-old, 1 in 3 expected to live to age 90, 1 in 7 expected to live to age 95. My view tends to be for most of us boomers, as we head into retirement these days, if we have any type of pension at all, far more likely to be that defined contribution type, 401k, 403b, 457. We're walking out the door, not with that guaranteed stream of lifetime income like we used to have with that traditional defined benefit pension. No, we're walking out the door with a pile of money. And we're discovering the burden has been shifted onto us. Figure out how to make this pile of money last for this extended period of time of retirement. So my view tends to be that later in retirement, for many of us, that pile of money will have been reduced. Later in retirement, for many of us, our healthcare costs may be higher. So you may have a greater need for a higher monthly income later in retirement than when you make that initial transition. And one way you can help meet that anticipated need is by delaying the start of your Social Security benefits. But again, not for me to say, it's your choice, your decision. You're the ones who worked, you're the ones who paid into the system. But again, my view tends to be, and I tend to think that good things come to those who wait. But again, your choice, your decision. I want you to make that informed decision. And understand the basic principle is you start sooner, you're given less per month for the rest of your life. You wait longer before you start, you're given a higher amount for the rest of your life. But when Congress set that increase rate and decrease rate so many years ago based on average life expectancy at the time, yeah, it was all supposed to come out about even. But again, because life expectancy is increasing, that's why I tend to think that good things do come to those who wait. But again, keep repeating, your choice, your decision. Yes?
Let's say you wait to retire until your age 66.5, 6 months. Then would you get a boost of 4%?
Everybody get the question? Full retirement age is 66. You ought not to collect at 66. You have to start collecting at 66 and a half, all right? I'll paraphrase. What type of increase do you get? Delayed retirement credits grow at the rate of 2/3% for each month you've deferred. So you wait 6 months, you don't get the full annual increase, but you do get that 4% bump because you've deferred for that 6-month period. The same way, take it early, the reduction is on a month-by-month basis. For each month prior to full retirement age, your payment's reduced by 0.5%. You opt to defer, Past full retirement age, your benefit is increased by 2/3% for each month that you wait.
And do they base that on a whole month, let's say January, February, March, or is it a 30-day period? Because you know how the government.
Calendar months. So, and the important thing is, so let's say you're born January 15th. You turn 66 in January, that's your full retirement age month. You start collecting benefits effective with the month of January, and it doesn't matter that you're born on the 15th or the 20th or anything like that. That's when you get 100%. You have to wait till February before you start. That's 1 month past your full retirement age. Your payment's going to be 2/3% higher because you waited that 1 month, but it's on a calendar month basis. Incidentally, quick reminder for folks who are younger or have full retirement age something other than age 66. Let's say you have a full retirement age of 67 because you're born 1960 or later. It's important to point out, under current law, you can still start to collect retirement benefits as early as age 62 if you choose to do so. But here's the thing, full retirement age is 67, you start at 62, you're actually now going to be collecting potentially for 5 years prior to full retirement age. You'll find that your payment, if you start at 62 with a full retirement age of 67, you'll be given 70% of what you'd receive if you waited till full retirement age. Again, in theory, reduction because you're collecting for a longer period of time. And by the same token, under current law, these delayed retirement credits only accrue till you reach age 70. So you get a full retirement age of 66, delayed retirement credits accrue from full retirement age until 70. So the full retirement age of 67, you get a 3-year window in which you can accrue delayed retirement credits. Means, again, under current law, I think this may well be changed, but it means your benefit at age 70 is only going to be 24% higher than your full retirement age amount. Because again, the reduction is on a month-per-month basis. The increase, month-per-month basis by deferring, but only up until age 70. Yeah?
Someone who's 70 and continuing to work full-time, is there any benefit to not collecting Social Security, they say?
So the question is, age 70, still working, is there any benefit to not collecting? Well, there may be a tax implication of collecting, because we'll talk about how Social Security benefits get taxed. But the important thing is, by waiting past age 70, you see no additional increase in your benefit because you waited past age 70. Now we'll talk about how work impacts your ongoing ability to collect. We'll talk about that in a second. But there are no additional increases past age 70 because you haven't started to collect. So basically, think about it, you kind of got this continuum, start as early as 62, doesn't make any sense to wait past age 70. Question is, what point along that line makes the most sense for you? Recognizing you start prior to full retirement age, you get less. You wait past full retirement age before starting, you're going to get more. Again, your choice, your decision. All right. Second big area I get questions about is, well, how do they figure out how much I'm getting anyway? Understand this, as I said a while ago, there is a relationship between your work and your earnings and what you eventually collect. We'll see in a second, it's not a perfect correlation. But in calculating anybody's benefits, Social Security uses a formula that Congress has written right into the law. Formula is a number of different steps in it. First step, an important one, Social Security does go back and adjust all of your prior year earnings for inflation. Bring them up to what they are in today's dollar, calculating your benefit. Then once they've done that though, they calculate your benefit based on an average of your highest, wait for it, 35 years of work under the system. Another one of those huge myths. I don't know how many folks out there mistakenly think it's your high 3 or your last 5, like some other pension systems. Social Security benefits are based on an average of a lifetime of earnings, which these days defined as your highest 35 years of work under the system. So what happens if you don't have 35 years where you paid into Social Security? You've taken time out of the workforce to raise kids, care for aging parents, or perhaps work for a while in a job where you weren't paying into the Social Security program. Unfortunately, no provision for that. There's still going to be an average of your highest 35 years of work. And if you don't happen to have 35 years of something, zeros get plugged in for those additional years. It lowers your average monthly wage. It lowers your monthly benefit because ultimately they're coming up with a dollar amount that represents your average monthly wage. And then once they've done that, they apply benefit formula really quickly. So you get somebody average lifetime earnings of 35 years, $500. Monthly benefits 0.261. How do we get at that? Because you take 97 first, 895, 32, then from 42. Yeah, money. Any questions on that?
So if I recently got a statement, they have already calculated that adjustment in there?
Yeah.
You know, Social
Yeah,
Security.
yeah. Yes.
Is it 35 consecutive years or just 35 whatever years?
Great question. Is it 35 consecutive years? Doesn't have to be 35 consecutive years. It's your highest 35 years, and again, of inflation-adjusted earnings, going all the way back to your very first job. All right? All right, so we come up with this dollar amount. Here's the thing I want to point. Hey, one more thing, and I'll take another question. Just a quick reminder. It's another instance of Social Security being that social insurance program. And when Congress put that formula in place, they recognize that people in lower paying jobs are less likely to have a pension, less likely to be able to save for their retirement during their working years, because they need that money for food, clothing, and shelter. So the system tries to help someone who's been a long time lower earner by providing a monthly payment amount, which is intended to replace a higher percentage of that person's pre-retirement income, somewhere in the neighborhood of 55%. Now, for somebody who's been a higher earner, by all means, they get more each month in absolute terms than the lower earner does, but if you look what that payment represents, it's actually designed to replace a smaller percentage, around 34% of somebody's pre-retirement income. And for the average worker, Social Security payments only intended to replace around 41% of that person's pre-retirement income. In no case, high earner, low earner, or average earner is a benefit intended to replace 100% of what you're making at the time you retire, which leads us back to that first slide I showed you. It's vitally important to recognize programs simply designed to provide you a base of income protection. You can count on being there, absolutely, but it's a base of income protection you must take steps to supplement, because it was never intended to be your only source of income in retirement. Two numbers if you think about today, and I'll take some questions. 2018, the average Social Security retirement benefit being paid, $1,404 a month. $1,404 average retirement benefit. Then I get asked the question, well, is there a maximum payment? Well, qualify it, 2018. Somebody who's at full retirement age of 66 this year, who for each of the past 35 years has had earnings at or above whatever the taxable maximum has been, because that's an important point. Each year there's a maximum level of earnings upon which Social Security tax is imposed. This year, it's $128,400. You make above that, you're not going to pay Social Security tax on that. So when it comes time to average somebody's earnings, Social Security only looks at an average as the earnings that have been subject to Social Security tax. So 2018, somebody at full retirement age of 66, who for each of the past 35 years has had earnings at or above whatever the taxable maximum has been, this year he or she receives, drum roll please, $2,788 a month. $2,788. Maximum full retirement age, $1,404 average benefit. About $16,000 a year average, $33,000 a year plus maximum. A base, foundation, good solid base and foundation. One other comment, and I'll take some questions. If I'd been given the full 8 hours I was originally promised, we'd be going through this in excruciatingly painful detail. So I realize if there are engineers in the room, your heart broke. But I'll get your question in a second. You want to learn more about calculations and computations? I want to lead you to the Social Security Administration website, socialsecurity.gov/ and then the letters OACT, socialsecurity.gov/OACT, which is an abbreviation for the Social Security Administration's Office of the Actuary. Everybody knows what an actuary is. Actuary is somebody who doesn't have enough personality to be an accountant. Oh, yeah. All right, question in the back.
Does it matter if you retired and then didn't work? Like I retired at 62, but I don't want to collect it until 66. Those will be all zeros.
So the question is, I retire at 62. I don't intend to collect until 66. Paraphrase. How's that all get figured? For you, it's always going to be an average of your highest 35 years of work under the system.
So whatever it said on that statement that it was in the, I printed printed it out, that will always be my check?
Absent future cost of living increases,
I
but
don't
yes.
know what that means, I don't understand, what are you saying? Can you say it in plain English?
Which part?
The cost of whatever you said.
Sure. So each year, and one of the great things about the Social Security program is, once you qualify for benefits, you can't outlive your money. You're paid month after month after month after month until the month you pass away. And in some cases, even beyond that. And those were not proud moments for us at Social Security when we discovered people get paid. But in addition to being paid every month, the Social Security program includes a measure of inflation protection. And each year that there has been an increase in something called the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners, the CPIW is the abbreviation, whatever increase has occurred in that CPIW, that gets automatically passed on to Social Security beneficiaries. It's not dependent on a separate vote of Congress. So that's called the cost of living adjustment. Your benefit goes up each year based on whatever the increase has been in inflation during the prior year as measured by that Consumer Price Index. Last year, or in October of 2017, Social Security announced that folks beginning this month would receive a 2% increase in their benefit payments because from the third quarter of 2016 to the third quarter of 2017, that Consumer Price Index measure increased by 2%. So the cost of living adjustment is the automatic increase in your payment each year based on whatever measure of inflation. So if there's no inflation going forward, yes, that amount you see,
It'll never go down, but
it will never go down.
Okay.
It will never go down. So, and often get asked the question, hey, if I quit work early, is that going to lower my Social Security benefit? And I say, no, it's not going to lower your Social Security benefit, but it probably means that your benefit might not be as high as it would have been had you continued to work and continue to make ever higher amounts right up until your full retirement age. Because for most of us, the way the wage system works, your highest years of earnings tend to be those later in your life. So if you stop work early, you are foregoing, if you will, the opportunity to have higher levels of earnings, which would increase your benefit. But it doesn't lower your benefit by stopping work. It's always based on your highest 35 years, whatever they are. But if you had continued to work and pay in at a higher level, it would result in a higher benefit amount. Yes, sir.
Her situation, when you say that it won't be adjusted because she waits till 66, but once she starts collecting, does she get those adjustments?
Can I have a follow-on question?
Sure.
I have the 40 quarters because I worked for the federal government 15 years. But before that, I worked, you said you have to have 35 years. I worked under PERS for the state of Ohio, so I didn't pay the Social Security. Did they cap that money that I earned those years?
No, because you weren't paying into the Social Security program. It's an average of your highest 35 years of work where you've been contributing to Social Security.
But what if I don't have 35 years?
If you have 10 years, you're always going to get something to get you your 40 credits. But once you've got that, when it comes time to figure your benefit amount, it's going to be based on an average of your highest 35 years of work. So if you don't happen to have 35 years of something, let's say you have 15 years where you paid into Social Security, your benefit's going to be based on an average of those high 15 years plus 20 years of zero earnings. Lowers your average monthly wage, lowers your monthly benefit. All right. So we talked about when you can collect, we talked about how benefits are figured. Yes?
Just to reiterate, you had mentioned that the maximum that you can receive from Social Security is $2,780. And is that based on a salary of greater than $128K for 3 years? Or can you explain over that one more time?
Sure.
For me, please?
for your limit. So again, it's based, your benefit is always calculated based on an average of your highest 35 years of work and earnings. So that figure I gave you, the 2788, that's for somebody who is at full retirement age of 66 this year, who for each of the past 35 years has had earnings at or above whatever the taxable maximum has been for each one of those years. This year, 2018, for example, you pay Social Security tax on the first $128,400 that you make. Last year, 2017, it was the first $127,200 that you make. It was something less than that. But that person, age 66, who for each of the past 35 years has had earnings at or above whatever the taxable maximum has been, that's the person who gets 2788 this year.
Thank you. That's
Yes?
You said last 35 years. What do you mean 35 years in their past earnings? Is that right?
Well, again, because the taxable maximum goes up year over year, to have the maximum, that 2788, they need to be 35 consecutive years, because if you have a couple of zeros in there, you may have had prior years at maximum earnings, but the maximum earning level would be lower for those prior years, but it's your highest 35.
The highest 35 and absolute earnings. Okay, so if you were at the maximum, you stopped working for 5 years. You're at maximum for 5 years, stop working for 5 years, work at the maximum for another 30 years.
You're not going to get as much as if you had been at maximum for those 35 consecutive years. Yes?
Where do you find that number for the maximum per year? That's not the same thing as substantial earnings.
Absolutely not. Not the same as substantial earnings. Social Security's website has it.
Okay, it's on there.
It's the taxable maximum.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so let's talk about working and retirement. Oh, yes, sir.
Just for those of us that are anal and really notice stuff, slides, numbers, and the numbers of the amounts are different from what's in our handout, so it's just a little confusing.
Yeah, I think we get confused on what we were going to be showing today, so I apologize for that. All right, so
We'll make sure that the slides that you're showing are sent out to our client care clients.
Right.
This week.
all right, so let's talk about working and retirement. Get a lot of questions about this as well. Here's another area where it's important to know what your full retirement age is. Because under the rules of the program, you have to start collecting benefits before you've reached your full retirement age. But you want to keep working. You need to understand that you're limited in how much you can earn before it begins to impact your ability to collect. 2018, you're under your full retirement age and working. You're allowed to make up to $17,040 without any loss of Social Security benefits whatsoever. $17,040 or less, you'll be able to collect full Social Security payments for each and every month. Yeah?
When you say you can make up to, is that actual wages?
That's what I'm going to get to. Hang in there for a second. Hang in there for a second. $17,040 or less, you'll collect benefits for each and every month. You make above that, doesn't mean you can't necessarily collect at all, but it means Social Security then is required to start holding back $1 in benefit payments for every $2 that you're over the threshold. So, what counts towards that $17,040? Two things only: wages or net income from self-employment. In other words, earned income only. That whole wide world of unearned income you might be receiving, a VA benefit, General Motors pension, 401k distributions, bank interest, dividends. None of that counts towards that $17,040. Earned income only. But the great news is, from the month you reach your full retirement age on, there's no longer any earnings limitation imposed on you whatsoever. From the month you hit full retirement age on, you can work and earn as much as you'd like and collect full Social Security benefits at the same time.
Okay, question. If one spouse is working, another is not, and it's the spouse who's not working who wants to claim their retirement, and you're filing a joint return, does the fact that your spouse is working reduce the amount that you're entitled to if you're the non-working spouse?
Everybody hear the question? You've got a couple, all right? One member of the couple is working, the other member of the couple is not. The other member of the couple who is not working wants to collect Social Security benefits. Does the earnings of the working member of the couple impact that other member's ability to collect? The answer is no. It's only that other member of the couple if he or she were working. Now, we'll talk about taxation of benefits in a little bit. And in that case, couple filing jointly, all sources of income determine whether or not the person may pay federal income tax on a portion of their Social Security benefits, but the working spouse's earnings don't impact whether the non-working spouse can collect in the first place. It may mean they pay federal income tax though on a portion of their benefits. We'll talk about that in a second. So anyway, yes, sir?
So the number there, 17,040, is based on wages and net self-employment income.
Yep.
Is it and or? So if you have both wages and self-employment income, it's going to be combined together?
Combined, and. It's and. Yep. All right. So as I said, full retirement age on, work and earn as much as you want and collect at the same time. Now, get a lot of questions from folks who say, hey, you know what? I'm retired, but I'm thinking about going back to work. I'm not going to have to pay Social Security tax on my earnings, am I? If you're in a job covered by Social Security, you will absolutely pay Social Security tax on those earnings, which is good news for the good folks up the road at Social Security because they could use the money these days. But there's potentially good news for you. As I mentioned, your benefit is always calculated by averaging your highest 35 years of work under the system. And it's your highest 35 years of work regardless of when they occur. So even if you consider yourself retired, you go back to work. You're in a job covered under Social Security, you pay into the system. If the earnings that you have are higher than the lowest of the 35 years that Social Security had been using to calculate your benefit, the great news for you is end of the year, you file your tax return. Social Security doesn't match. They will automatically recompute your benefit. They'll drop out that low year, plug in that new higher year of earnings, and you'll be due a benefit increase going forward. And this ability to increase your payment through additional work and earnings, it continues forever. Delayed retirement credits, that bump because you're not collecting, yeah, that stops at 70. No additional bump past age 70 by not collecting. But no matter how old you are, if you're working, paying into the system, and your earnings are higher than the lowest of your 35 years, benefit's going to go up year over year. The other bit of good news, frankly, about working, after full retirement age, it never hurts. You've been a high-priced executive. But in retirement, take a part-time job at the local golf course, driving the beer cart around. Make a couple $1,000 at the end of the year. That couple $1,000 is probably going to be lower than the lowest of your 35 years of earnings. So what happens to your payment going forward? Nothing. It's always based on average of your highest 35 years of work. So a while ago I said I think good things come to those who wait. I think good things can come to those who work as well. Understand that after full retirement age, there's no earnings limitation. You can work and earn as much as you want and collect at the same time. And there's always a possibility that those additional earnings will increase your payment going forward, but it will never decrease it. Never decrease it. All right, keep pressing on here. So what I want to do is spend a little time talking about spousal benefits, survivor benefits, divorce spousal benefits, then bring you up to date on some changes that occurred a couple of years ago, and some Social Security claiming strategies that couples had been utilizing as a way to optimize or maximize their lifetime Social Security benefits. Claiming strategies were altered by passage of something called the Bipartisan Budget Bill, passed in November 2015. Made changes to these claiming strategies that couples had been utilizing. So it's important to understand how spousal, survivor, and divorce spousal benefits work so you can understand the changes to the claiming strategy. Social Security spousal benefits. Program's been around about 60 or 70 years or so. Put in place by Congress to support the model of the Cleaver household. You had Ward and June. But Ward Cleaver, he was the breadwinner. Ward Cleaver worked. He came downstairs each morning. He was impeccably dressed. He left the home, briefcase in hand. Now, we don't really know where he went or what he did, right? But Ward Cleaver worked. June Cleaver, prototypical American housewife of the 50s and 60s. Well, she came downstairs each morning, impeccably dressed, wasn't she? She had pearls and high heels on at 8 in the morning, for God's sakes. But June Cleaver never worked a day outside the home in her life. Her job was to have brownies and milk available for Wally Pandasek. Leave It to Beaver. It's on Nick at Night. June Cleaver, her job is to have brownies and milk available for Wally and the Beav, right? Social Security supports the Cleaver model in the following way. Ward Cleaver, breadwinner. At his full retirement age, he'll get a benefit based on whatever that mysterious work was. So let's say he gets $1,000 a month. June Cleaver, as his spouse, at her full retirement age, she's going to be eligible to receive a monthly payment equal to 50% of Ward's full retirement age amount, or in our example, $500 a month. That will be paid to her in addition to the $1,000 paid to Ward, and it'll be paid to her even though she may not have worked a day outside the home in her life. Now, for June Cleaver to collect, a few conditions have to be met. First, Ward needs to be collecting. All right, Ward Cleaver needs to be collecting in order for June to be able to receive benefits. Second, for June to collect, she has to be at least age 62. Earliest age a spouse can collect. No different than on the retirement program. If she's at her full retirement age, what she claims, she'll get the full 50%. If she's younger than that, her payment amount's reduced. Again, the theory being starting earlier, collecting for a longer period of time, given a lower amount. And third, important to remind folks, June's spousal payment is based on 50% of Ward's full retirement age amount, not 50% of what he may actually be collecting. So for example, Ward, full retirement age amount $1,000, but he opts to wait till age 70, so he's actually receiving $1,320 a month. June's spousal payment is still only going to be $500 at her full retirement age, 50% of his full retirement age amount. So in this instance, she gets less than half of what he's drawing. But by the same token, Ward, full retirement age amount $1,000, he starts at age 62, so he's getting $750 a month. At full retirement age, June's still going to get a full $500 a month. 50% of the full retirement age amount. But that's the 50s and 60s. Flash forward the 70s, 80s, beyond, because now in all likelihood, June Cleaver will have worked outside the home, will have paid into the Social Security program, will have earned a benefit on her own. How do those work together? Well, let's say Ward's got his $1,000, but June's got a benefit of $800. They head to the local Social Security office together. Ward gets his $1,000, June gets her $800. Social Security's about to say goodbye and good luck, and June goes, ho, 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 ho. Wait a minute. Can't fool me. Where's my $500 spousal payment? At that point, the good folks at Social Security go, sorry, June. Under the rules of the program, it's important to note that as Ward's spouse, you can collect that 50% of his full retirement age amount or your own, one or the other, whichever one is higher, but you don't get both at once. Because her own $800 benefit in our example exceeds 50% of his full retirement age amount, that's what she collects. Now, say she hadn't worked that much, though, so her own benefit was only $250. Well, at that point, Social Security would give her an additional $250 to move her from her own up to that 50% of his full retirement age amount. But spousal benefits, 50% of the higher earner's full retirement age amount, or the individual's own, one or the other, not both at once. By the way, the program is completely gender neutral. What do I mean by that? Simple. Let's say the Cleavers had been ahead of their day, so Ward was a stay-at-home dad in the 50s and June was the primary breadwinner. Everything I talked about would be completely true, that he could collect 50% of her full retirement age amount or his own. And I often get asked questions, well, what does Social Security do about same-sex marriage? And prior to June of 2013, Social Security was prohibited for paying spousal benefits in case of same-sex marriage because of DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act, which said for federal benefit purposes, marriage is defined one man, one woman. But in June of 2013, in the Windsor versus the United States Supreme Court case, that provision of DOMA declared unconstitutional. So since that point, Social Security will pay spousal benefits in case of same-sex marriage. Spousal benefits. Here's some good news for June. That's if Ward dies. Yes, sir.
Does the spouse have to collect on her own, or can she just collect her spousal benefit if it's more than on her own?
What Social Security, so the question is, can you just collect the spousal benefit, or do you have to take your own, or whatever? Under the rules, we'll talk about one exception in just a second, but basically the rules say you always collect your own first, and then if your own is less than 50%, you're given additional money on top of that to bring you up to the spousal benefit. Basically, collect your own first, with one exception, which we'll talk about in a couple of seconds. So, survivor benefits, as I said, good news for June, that's if Ward dies. Not good news for Ward, by any stretch of the imagination. But now with survivor benefits, we're talking about a payment rate, not 50% of his full retirement age amount. No, we're talking about 100% of what he's collecting at the time he passed away. Oh yeah, still, or her own, one or the other, not both at once. So for example, Ward's getting 1,000, June's getting 800, Ward dies. Well, the good news for June is she'll begin to receive an additional $200 a month, moving her from the 800 she'd been getting on her own up to the $1,000 level that he had been collecting. That's the good news. Bad news again, as I said, one or the other. So just keep in mind, while they were alive, they were getting $1,800 a month in Social Security income. He passes away while her individual payment goes up. In essence, her old benefit goes away. Just something you need to plan for. A couple other things about survivor benefits. Start to collect as early as age 60. Under the rules of the program, widows and widowers can start to collect as early as age 60. The same concept holds. You take that lower amount, take the amount earlier, you're getting a lower amount. You start right at age 60, you get 71.5%. The other point I want to make about survivor benefits, as I said, you get one or the other, 100% though. So Ward, full retirement age amount 1,000, but he opts to wait till age 70. So at the time he passes away, he's getting $1,320 a month. Better news for June is her benefit increases from the 800 past 1,000, all the way up to that $1,320 that he didn't receive. So just keep this in mind in deciding when to start to draw your own retirement benefit. Recognize that by opting to wait, not only is your own payment higher once you start to draw it, but it also means that any survivor payment that could be made is going to be higher as well. By starting sooner, you're getting less. Also means any survivor payment is going to be lower than if you waited. Incidentally, it's Ward's benefit amount if he was collecting payments at the time he passed away, or what he would have been drawing had he started collecting the month he passed away. So Ward, full retirement age 66, intends to wait to age 70, passes away at age 68, never having drawn a penny. June's survivor benefit's going to be based on his age 68 payment rate. It won't be 32% higher than his full retirement age amount because he hadn't lived all the way to 70, but it will be 16% higher. Those delayed retirement credits that he had been accruing by waiting do mean that her survivor payment is higher. Again, another reason good things come to those who wait. Yeah?
All this is independent of the survivor's income or retirement status.
Hang on to that. We're going to talk about that in about 30 seconds. So as I said, start as early as age 60. Quick reminder, though, about survivor benefits. As I said, you can collect on one account or the other at a time. You don't collect both payments at once. But it's important to remind folks that under the rules of the program, for example, June Cleaver, widow at age 60, she can opt to collect a reduced survivor benefit starting at age 60, collect, hit her full retirement age, apply for and receive at that point her own unreduced retirement benefit, or perhaps she wants to wait till age 70 before switching over, files for her own at age 70, her retirement payment will have accrued those delayed retirement credits, be 32% higher than she would have received had she started at her full retirement age. But again, she's collecting on one or the other at a time. Reverse is true. She can start to collect reduced retirement benefit at 62, for example, and at full retirement age, switch over, collect full unreduced survivor benefit, collecting on one or the other at a time. But the important point is this, and answer your question. Whether you're talking about retirement benefits, spousal benefits, or survivor benefits, and you're looking to collect prior to reaching your full retirement age, that earnings limitation we talked about a couple of slides ago applies. So June Cleaver, widow at age 60, making $500,000 a year. While she's old enough to collect the survivor benefit, she's not going to be eligible at that point because she's making too much money. But again, at full retirement age, that earnings limitation goes away. So under full retirement age, earnings impact your ability to collect, whether you talk about the retirement benefit, spousal benefit, or survivor benefit. All right, I glossed over a tragedy that actually befallen the Cleaver family, that after many happy years of marriage, Ward ran off with his 24-year-old secretary. And June divorced him. Can she collect based on Ward's work and earnings as a divorced spouse? The answer is potentially, if a few conditions have been met. What are those conditions? First and foremost, the marriage needs to have lasted 10 years prior to the divorce. Check. Second, for June to collect, she cannot be married. For her to collect as a divorced spouse, she cannot be married. Ward, the cad, he could have remarried that young hussy without impacting her ability to collect, but she cannot be married. Thirdly, she has to be at least age 62. Earliest age a divorced spouse can collect, no different than regular spousal benefits. But there is one advantage that accrues in cases of divorce that doesn't apply if the marriage were intact. As I mentioned, they're still married. June can't collect as a spouse unless and until Ward's actually collecting. What the law says in cases of divorce, as long as they're both 62 years of age or older, and the divorce was finalized at least 2 years ago, she can begin to collect based on his work record, even if he has not yet started to collect. Both have to be 62, divorce finalized 2 years ago. She can collect even if he has not yet started to draw. So those conditions being met, what's she entitled to receive? Simple, as if the marriage was still intact. She'd receive 50% of his full retirement age amount, or her own. One or the other, not both at once. Hang on just a second. He passes away, now she gets 100% of his or her own, one or the other. And the last point is this last bullet. The law designates divorce spousal payments as being absolutely, totally, completely independent of anyone and everyone else in the record. So Ward could have 3 or 4 exes. Each one of those, if the marriage lasted at least 10 years, could be collecting without having impact on anyone else. Yes?
I'm not asking for myself.
But I've got a friend who couldn't be here today.
No, one of my relatives, that third one, if you have been divorced at least 2 years, and you want to collect off of him, would he know that you were collecting off of him?
So the question is, and I'll paraphrase, how did Privacy Act impact all of this? Under the rules of the program, there is absolutely no way that Social Security should be informing him that she's collecting. Collecting absolutely, totally, completely independent. He shouldn't know anything about her, and the same token, Social Security shouldn't be revealing any information about him to her as to where he is or anything like that. She should just be given a dollar amount.
So what would she need to collect, just a Social Security number?
So what would she need to establish eligibility? If she has his Social Security number, that would help. But then, when she applies for benefits, she'll need to provide a marriage certificate, a copy of the divorce decree to establish that the marriage lasted at least 10 years. Yep. All right, so we talked about spousal benefits, survivor benefits, divorce spousal benefits. I want to quickly touch on some strategies, then we'll take like a 2-minute stretch break, and then we'll have the big finish. 3 strategies we're going to talk about. File and suspend, claim some now, claim more later, and then what is now called the no-can do-over. File and suspend, you may have heard about this, read about this, wondered, what's it all about? Alfie? Oh, come on, that's a funny line. I know you're getting tired. Throw me a bone, will you? File and suspend, the old law, basically. We'll illustrate with the Cleavers again. This is a situation where Ward had worked, June had never worked. Ward Cleaver, though, having attended the Zarnowski Consulting Seminar, decides he wants to wait until age 70 before beginning to collect his own retirement benefit. But he's wondering, is there something I can do to get June some spousal money while I'm waiting? And under the old file and suspend strategy, there certainly wasn't. Because under the old law, if Ward had reached his full retirement age, that's a key thing, had to be at full retirement age. He had the option at that point going to Social Security, applying for his own retirement benefit, and then asking to have his monthly payments suspended. By asking to have his payments suspended, he'd begin to not receive anything, but because he was not receiving anything, he'd be accruing delayed retirement credits, growing his benefit 2/3% per month, 8% per year. even though he had applied, he'd asked to have his payment suspended. But the beauty of the strategy was, under the old rules, Ward's merely having applied, even though he may have asked to have his payment suspended, meant that Social Security could make a spousal payment to June. She could draw that spousal benefit even though he was not yet collecting. Again, he had to be at full retirement age, file, asked to have his payment suspended. Social Security at that point was able to pay June, even though Ward wasn't being paid. What's the new law say? Well, basically, again, it was a bipartisan budget bill passed in November of 2015 under the new rules, under the new law. If you had filed and suspended by April 30th or April 29th of 2016, you were grandfathered in, you operated under the old rules. But since that point, while you can still file and suspend if you'd like to, the new rules say that if you ask to have your payment suspended, Social Security is now required to suspend the benefits to anyone and everyone else who might be collecting on your record. So that old situation where Ward could file and suspend and June could still be paid, that's what's been eliminated. Again, he can still file and suspend if he wants, but if he has to have his payment suspended, Social Security can't pay June, it can't pay anyone else in the record. So it really wrung out any advantage to the file and suspend strategy. So since April 29th of 2016, file and suspend really long gone, hard to find. All right. The other strategy though, claim some now, claim more later. This has a longer shelf life, and it's something you should be aware of because you may still be able to take advantage of it. Claim some now, claim more later strategy. We'll illustrate with the cleavers again. Excuse me, but this is a case where Ward and June both work. Ward, full retirement age amount $1,000, June, full retirement age amount $800. June, not having attended the Zarnowski Consulting Seminar, is collecting. But Ward, he still wants to wait till age 70, but he's wondering, is there something I can do to get me some money while I'm waiting? And under this claim some now, claim more later strategy, there certainly was. June's collecting. If Ward waited till his full retirement age, he had the option at that point of going to Social Security and, in essence, picking and choosing. He had the option at that point of taking just a spousal benefit without having to take his own retirement benefit first. Key thing was you had to be at full retirement age, because with Social Security, prior to reaching full retirement age, you never had that option. You always had to take your own first. With the old law, if you reached full retirement age, you could indeed pick and choose. Meaning, he'd be able to receive a monthly spousal payment, in our example, $400, half of June's full retirement age amount. At the same time, he was deferring collection of his own, accruing delayed retirement credits, growing his own benefit to 30% per month, 8% per year. It was a good deal. It was such a good deal that Congress eliminated it. Because basically what they said, and again, they had a longer phase-out period, the new law basically says, if you were born January 1st, 1954 or earlier, born January 1st, 1954 or earlier, then at your full retirement age, if your spouse is collecting, you still have the option of picking and choosing. You still have the option of taking just a spousal benefit without having to take your own retirement benefit first. Again, born January 1st, 54 or earlier, meaning you had reached age 62 by the end of calendar year 2015. Then, at your full retirement age, if your spouse is collecting, you still have the option of utilizing this strategy. You can still take just a spousal benefit, receive 50% of your spouse's full retirement age amount, and let your own grow. But, born after January 1st, 1954, in regards to this strategy, in the vernacular, you are S-O-L, all right? Meaning, no matter what age you're at, when you go to Social Security, you don't have the option of picking and choosing. You're always required to take your own retirement benefit first, and if your own retirement benefit exceeds 50% of your spouse's full retirement age amount, that's all you get. You don't have the option. One more second. But the last thing, just a quick reminder on the change to the strategy, this doesn't impact what I talked about in terms of widows and widowers having the option of taking one and then claiming the other at a later date. Spousal benefits only. So again, you're born prior to January 1st, 54, at your full retirement age. If your spouse is collecting, you still have the option of taking just the spousal payment, allowing your own to grow, filing for your own at whatever point you want. Yes, sir?
If we got, let's go back to June and more.
Mm-hmm.
If June's has a social security benefit, but it's much smaller than Ward's, and they both start collecting that benefit.
Mm-hmm.
And then June goes to one of the seminars and finds out that Ward's, 50% of Ward's benefit is much higher than her own social security benefit. Can she at some point change what she's collecting from her own towards 50%?
So the question is, if technically she wouldn't change, she would continue to draw her own, and she'd be given additional money to move her up on top of that. But that should, Social Security, part of the application process for her or for Ward asks about, is your spouse collecting, designed to try and identify situations like that and pay her right away. So she doesn't have a right to pick and choose, but she'd be due additional money.
If she started collecting before Ward did,
Yep.
then the answer to that question on her application would have been no, but it became yes.
So, but it became yes when Ward applied.
Right.
At that point, Ward would have been asked, do you have a spouse? He goes, yeah, I got June. Social Security should have identified that June's own benefit was less than 50% of Ward's, and they should have taken steps to increase her payment at that point.
I like the should have. What if they did?
Then, if Social Security had that information, hadn't acted on it properly, then she's due benefits back to the time he applied. Absolutely. Yes?
Just kind of shot at your former employer, but I have to tell you, I was covered by that, and I had an argument all the way with the second level supervisor that was the case. They're not aware of that in the offices.
Yeah, well, they're getting there. No doubt about it. I've heard that too. You know, and I worked for Social Security for 34 years. By and large, like any large organization, you're going to have some people that are less good than others, and unfortunately, you probably stumbled upon a couple of less good ones. Yeah. Hopefully, it all came out, worked out in the end.
Eventually, I had to go and find it in the law and take it to them.
Yes, sir.
Can you explain once again, when is your spouse, or if your spouse is eligible to apply for and receive Social Security benefits under this, what you've been talking about?
So you just talk about the strategy or in general?
No, just in general.
All right.
When is your spouse, or is your spouse eligible at some point?
Sure. So, has your spouse worked and paid into the Social Security program for at least 10 years? Yes. Meaning the spouse can potentially collect a Social Security retirement benefit based on the spouse's own work record, now, as early as age 62.
Right, independently. Now,
then you apply for benefits. At the point that you begin to collect, Social Security compares your spouse's full retirement age amount with 50% of your full retirement age amount. And if hers is less than 50% of yours, at that point, she's due additional money to move her from her own retirement benefit up towards that 50% of yours.
your spouse is due to leave her. She's never worked, she's never paid into Social Security. At what point?
When Ward starts to collect. If she has never worked, never paid in, she has no eligibility based on her own work record, she can only collect as a spouse, which means she can only collect once you start to collect.
Okay, supposing she has worked all these years, but has never paid into Social Security because of the conditions of her employment.
We're going to talk about that in a second. It's government pension offset situation. We'll cover all of those because I know it's important in this area. Yeah?
Anyone born January 54 or earlier, does that apply to the worker or the spouse?
No, good question. So what it applies to is the person who wants to take just the spousal benefit. So Ward Cleaver has, if he's born prior to January 1st, 1954, he's at his full retirement age. If June is collecting then, meaning she could have started at age 62. She could be 62 now collecting. As long as she's collecting, doesn't matter when she was born. But for him to be able to just take the spousal benefit, it applies to him.
And then when he starts getting his own, he gets jacked up, and so does the wife's.
Absolutely. At that point, once he starts to collect, she maybe do some additional money at that
I
point.
gotta say, I'm glad I came to this stuff.
I'm glad you came too. Wear that goofy Capitals jersey. Funny, you don't look Russian. Yes.
So the difference between this and the file and suspend is file and suspend, you can collect the spousal benefit without anybody actually collecting their social security. So in this case, the ward has to be collecting the social security for June to be able to do this.
Right.
That's one of the couples.
Yes, in this case, somebody has to be collected. Yes.
When you're talking about claiming Social Security,
Yeah.
are you talking about money or Medicare?
No, we're talking about money.
Only money?
Money. We'll talk about Medicare in a second, real quickly. All right, just a quick reminder. Sorry. May have heard about or read about something called the Social Security do-over. Just want to bring you up to date on that. Social Security's always had in place a process by which if you changed your mind about collecting benefits, you could undo what you had done. The secret was, for you to undo, you simply repaid any benefits that you would receive. Social Security never charged interest. So what had evolved probably a decade or so ago was a strategy that, for example, Ward Cleaver starts to collect at age 62. Collect, get that reduced amount. Age 70 goes back to Social Security and says, hey, I changed my mind. Want to undo what I had done 8 years ago. Social Security go fine, figure out how much he received, pay that money back without any interest being charged. That meant that Ward at that point was free to file a new application, and his ongoing payment rate would not be the age 62 rate he'd been collecting at for 8 years, but it'd be his age 70 rate. In essence, if you think about it, he would have received an interest-free loan from Social Security during this period of time, because all he paid back was the principal. This Social Security do-over was significantly changed at the end of 2010, meaning, since that point, if you change your mind about applying for and collecting benefits, you have a year, 12 months in which you can change your mind and repay and without interest being charged, and then reapply at a later date. After a year, you're kind of locked into what you're at. With one exception though, just a quick reminder. We talked about file and suspend being eliminated. Well, what was eliminated was the benefit of the strategy. But as I said, at full retirement age, you can still file and ask to have your benefits suspended. You can always ask to have your payments suspended. So for example, you start to collect at age 62, you're getting a reduced amount. You hit your full retirement age, you say, shoot, I wish I'd gone to that Sarnowski Consulting seminar earlier. I'd like to increase my benefit. Just a reminder, under the rules of the program, because you're at your full retirement age, you still have the option of calling up Social Security and asking to have your payments suspended. By doing that, you're not going to collect anything, and for each month going forward, now it's your reduced payment rate, that will grow by 2/3% per month, 8% per year. The downside is if you've got somebody collecting at the same time, the new rules say that person's payments are going to be suspended at the same time. But if you're the only person collecting, just keep in mind that after full retirement age, you still have the option of asking to have your payments suspended to accrue delayed retirement credits and grow your benefit rate.
Last sentence, you're saying that the other party, the other spouse has to suspend.
If the other spouse is collecting as a spouse on your record, that's what the file and suspend is. You know, if you ask to have your payment suspended, Social Security suspends everybody's. But there's no other person collecting on your record. This is one way you can increase your benefit. All right, yeah.
So what's the benefit of that?
Oh, so you, suspending?
Yes.
Yes, so basically, again, you start at 62, you get 75% of your full retirement age amount. You hit full retirement age, you go, shoot, I could use a higher benefit. Assuming you don't need the money, you can now grow that payment, even though you started collecting early. Yep. All right, yes?
Can you suspend after age 70 if you wanted to?
No benefit suspension only applies till age 70 because voluntary suspension in the law is only to accrue delayed retirement credits. You don't have an option after age 70. All right, may take 8 hours after. All right, just a quick reminder about taxation of benefits. Prior to 1983, Social Security benefits absolutely, totally, completely tax-free. That year, Congress changed the code, said if you're a higher income beneficiary, you'd be required to pay federal income tax on a portion of your payments. How they define higher income? Well, they said if you're a single tax filer at income above $25,000, couple filing jointly above $32,000 that first year, you'd be required to pay federal income tax on up to 50% of the payments you had received in the prior year, get treated as ordinary income, tax at whatever marginal tax rate you were under. That first year, only about 10% of all Social Security beneficiaries paid federal income tax on a portion of their payments. What Congress didn't do, though, was index the thresholds. So here we are 33 years later, still a point where you're a single tax filer. Excuse me, this always chokes me up. Yeah, income above 25, a couple filing jointly above 32, you're now in a position you may have to pay federal income tax on up to 85% of the payments that you had received in the prior year. It's treated as ordinary income, taxed at whatever marginal tax rate you're at. These days, about half of all Social Security beneficiaries at the end of the year do pay federal income tax on a portion of their payments. 15%, always tax-free, up to 85%, counted as, treated as ordinary income. My wish for everybody in this room is that you pay federal income tax on your Social Security benefits. Why? Because I want you to have more than $25,000 in retirement income as a single person, more than 32 as a couple. You should all aspire to pay federal income. That's not going anywhere. Every year, Social Security sends you 1099, use that filing a tax return. Question asked, does Social Security automatically withhold a portion of my benefits every month? No, they don't do it automatically, but if you'd like to have voluntary tax withholding, you can ask to have it done. So taxation of benefits, just keep that in mind. Quick reminder, we touched on this. Great thing about Social Security, cost of living adjustment each year, but it's based on the increase in the consumer price index, 2% kicked in this year. Quick reminder, how do you file for benefits? You're interested? You have 3 options. You can file online, you can visit a local office, or you can call Social Security's toll-free number, 1-800-772-1213. Ask to make an appointment. You know why it's called an 800 number? Because you have to dial it 800 times before they answer, right? All right, quick reminder about Medicare. Medicare has a number of different parts to it. It applies, it's a federal health insurance program for people who are 65 or older, who've been collecting Social Security for 2 years, 24 months, diagnosed with ALS, kidney failure, and there's a new category of people exposed to environmental hazard. With Medicare, a bunch of different parts to it. Part A of Medicare, hospital insurance, at age 65, if you've been working and paying into the Social Security and Medicare program for at least 10 years, basically you're paying a 1.45% Medicare tax. That's on top of the 6.2% Social Security tax you pay. 10 years worth of payment of that Medicare tax entitles you to receive Part A at no cost to you at age 65, and that's an important point. Medicare eligibility is age 65. May be different, or when it started, it was the same as full retirement age for Social Security. Full retirement age for Social Security is 66 and climbing. Medicare eligibility hasn't changed. With Part A, you're admitted to the hospital to pay a deductible. After that, Medicare pays your inpatient hospital stay. Part B, this is the thornier issue, whether you need it or not. With Part B, that helps pay for non-inpatient stuff. There's no work requirement for Part B. You want it, you pay a premium. Base premium this year, $134 a month. With Part B, there's a deductible. This year you pay a first $183. After that, Medicare covers 80% of the approved charges. Medicare provides that base of health insurance coverage, just the way Social Security provides a base of income protection. If you're collecting Social Security benefits, your Part B premium automatically deducted from a Social Security benefit. You take Part B of Medicare and not collecting Social Security, you get billed on a quarterly basis for your premium. Part D of Medicare prescription drug coverage. It's the latecomer to Medicare. Been around since passage of the Medicare Modernization Act of 2003. Kicked in 2006. Provides prescription drug coverage. The fundamental difference, though, Part D is offered through private insurance companies. You want Part A and or Part B, you sign up with Social Security. You want a prescription drug plan for Medicare, you need to have either Part A or Part B, but you sign up with a insurance company. I want to spend most of my time, though, quickly touching on the importance of signing up for Medicare on a timely basis. Because if you don't sign up for Part B on a timely basis, you may face delays in coverage and be forced to pay a higher premium. For most people, as I said, Medicare eligibility is age 65, and you're given what is called an initial window of enrollment opportunity. It's a 7-month window, 3 months before the month you turn 65 to 3 months after. You sign up for Medicare Part B during that initial window, you're good to go. Get your coverage right away. You only pay the base premium. If you don't, though, sign up during that initial opportunity, you may face delays in coverage and higher premium payments. And generally, you don't sign up during that initial opportunity, you try and sign up at a later date, you're forced to enroll in what is called the general enrollment period, which is January, February, or March. Your coverage doesn't become effective till July, and you are whacked. This is a technical term in the law. You are whacked with a 10% premium surcharge for each year you could have been covered under Medicare but weren't, with one exception. The exception is, if at the time you turn 65, the reason why you don't sign up for Part B of Medicare is because you were covered by your employer group health plan or by your spouse's employer group health plan, because you're still an active employee or your spouse is still an active employee, then you get a jail-free card. You have the opportunity to sign up for Medicare when that employer coverage ends, get coverage right away, not be faced with any type of premium surcharge. A couple of things. It's got to be because you're an active employee, a current employee. You can't be covered under your employer plan as a retiree. COBRA doesn't count, all right? Because with COBRA, you have employer coverage, but you're not an active employee. So just be aware of that. Why is there this disincentive, if you will? Simple. Medicare's insurance. Basic insurance policy. Want to pool the risk. Get as many people paying at the earliest point. Congress recognized that they didn't have this incentive, if you will, to get people to sign up early. Perfectly healthy people at 65. Wait around. I'll get questions in a second. Wait around. And then when they got sick, they'd sign up for Medicare, then probably would have important financial shortfalls, even more than they have now. So just be aware of that. You had one first, then you. Go ahead.
Let's say you're going to retire at, let's say next June, and you want to do the Medicare Part B. How soon, and you're actively employed, how soon before that June retirement date do you need to be applying for B?
So the question is, how far in advance do you need to apply? The question here specifically is about Medicare, but it applies for any type of Social Security benefits. Social Security can accept an application no more than 3 months in advance of the month you either want to get Medicare coverage or start your Social Security benefits. So you're retiring June 30th, you want your Medicare coverage effective July 1st, meaning anytime April 1st on, you can apply for Medicare coverage to be effective in July, maximum of 3 months in advance.
Okay, and then they start taking it out that July.
Correct.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
I think that just clarified. I was trying to figure out when you talked about the initial enrollment period, 3 months before and 3 months after, if you did, 3 months before, when would you actually be covered? And
The first day of the month you turn 65.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
You said COBRA doesn't count, that's TRICARE, which is a government pool.
With TRICARE, are you working?
Yes.
So you have TRICARE as you're an employee and you have TRICARE?
Well, I have TRICARE as a retired military.
Yeah.
Working.
TRICARE doesn't entitle you to sign up for Medicare Part B late. However, if you have employer coverage because you're working, that would entitle you to. But TRICARE isn't related to employment status. All right, big finish. Just a quick reminder, Medicare, they get their own 800 number, their own website. Want to touch on 2 provisions of the Social Security program that impact folks who work in a job and draw a pension based on work where they have not been paying into the Social Security program. One is called the elimination provision. The other is called government pension offset, windfall provision, government pension offset. Hopefully on the table out there, among the handouts I have for you, fact sheets on both of these. But the windfall provision first, that applies to you if you work in that job where you're not paying into the Social Security program. Like I didn't. I worked for the federal government. I'm old enough that I was covered in the old civil service retirement system, so I was not paying into the Social Security program. I draw a federal pension based on unemployment. The windfall applies if you get that pension based on work not covered under Social Security, but in addition to your public service, you've accrued at least 40 credits. You've got 10 years of time under Social Security. And as I mentioned, with 40 credits, 10 years of time under Social Security, you're always going to get something each and every month from Social Security. That's the good news. The bad news is because of the windfall provision, the amount that you collect each month, in all likelihood, won't be as high as it would have been if you didn't have that public pension, because the windfall provision requires Social Security to use a different and admittedly less generous formula to calculate the amount of your Social Security retirement benefit. But you're always going to get something. A lot of people mistakenly think, even in my 10 years, I'm not going to get anything. No, with the windfall provision, you're always going to get something. How big a difference is there? Well, in calculating the benefit for somebody who gets that non-covered pension, first couple of steps are the same. Social Security indexes your earnings, averages it over 35 years. But then the formula is different in that instead of 90% of the first $895, Social Security only gives you 40% of the first $895 of your average monthly wage. The remaining 2 steps are the same. So if you think about it, the maximum impact is going to be the difference between 90% of $895 and 40% of $895, or maximum reduction is going to be by $446. Quick example. Why does the windfall exist? Simple. It gets back to that fact. It's a progressive benefit formula. System set up so it helps people in lower paying jobs by replacing a higher percentage of their pre-retirement income. And what Congress recognized prior to the enactment of the windfall in 1983 was you'd have somebody who's been a long-time public employee, had cobbled together 40 Social Security credits. They come in to apply for Social Security benefits. Social Security calls up their wage record. All they'd have in front of them would be a record of their time under Social Security. All of that other non-covered work wouldn't be reflected. And Social Security would then be operating on an incomplete assessment based on just a quick look. It would look like this person would be one of those long-time low earners who ought to be given the benefit of that weighted benefit formula. Congress recognized, no, people with this additional public service, not paying into Social Security, probably shouldn't be treated as long-time low earners if you included both their covered and non-covered work. They shouldn't be. So the different formula designed to smooth out some of the weighting in the formula. But Congress also recognized that there may be people who are long-time employees under Social Security. And so an exception to the windfall provision is basically the more time you have under the Social Security program, the less of an impact your public pension has. And it works out. You have more than 20 years of time where you've worked and paid into the Social Security program, and it's at a substantial earnings level this year, around $23,000. But the more time you have under Social Security, the less of an impact your public pension has on you. Because if you think about it, the more time you've had under Social Security, the more accurately your Social Security wage record reflects your actual economic status. And it works out, you have 30 more years under Social Security, you get a full regular Social Security benefit, even with that public pension. Quick reminder, what triggers the windfall is receipt of the pension. Receipt of the pension. So, for example, You're a public employee. You hit your full retirement age. You haven't retired yet. Under the rules of the program, as we talked about, at full retirement age, work and earnings no longer impact your ability to collect. So you could, if you wanted to, go to Social Security, apply for your own retirement benefit, be paid that even though you were still working, and because you had not yet started to draw your pension, the windfall provision wouldn't apply, and you'd receive your full benefit. Only after you retired and started to draw your pension would the windfall provision be applied. So again, you're always going to get something, in all likelihood, won't be as high as it would have been if you didn't have that public pension. You first.
Does the windfall provision apply to the spouse?
We'll talk about that next. Yes?
Okay, I'm subjected to this, and I'm working towards having my 30 years, which should occur as of April 1st. And from what I understand is from January to April 1st, I have to accrue substantial earnings for 2018, which is 27 point something K. So as long as I have that amount accrued for my gross income, I'm golden, and it won't.
The windfall won't apply to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't have to work a full year, it's just that.
Yeah, once you cross that threshold. All right. So the second issue that impacts folks in this situation is called government pension offset. This situation where you get that public pension, again, based on work where you weren't paying into Social Security, but now you're not looking to collect a benefit based on your own work record, you're looking to collect benefits as a spouse, divorced spouse, or survivor, widow or widower. And here, frankly, the news is not as good. With the windfall provision, as long as you have 40 credits, you're always going to get something. But with government pension offset, there's a real possibility that because of your public pension, you may not receive anything as a spouse, divorced spouse, or survivor, because under government pension offset, before Social Security will pay you in those categories, they look at the amount of your public pension, figure out what 2/3 of your monthly pension is, and reduce or offset whatever you could collect on your spouse's work record by that 2/3 of your pension. So if 2/3 of your monthly public pension exceeds what you could collect as a spouse, divorced spouse, or survivor, you don't get anything more. If 2/3 of your pension is less, you collect the difference. Why does government pension offset exist? Well, simple. When I was talking about spousal benefits, I reminded you, you collect on one or the other. If you work under Social Security, you don't collect both at once. The government pension offset basically extends that concept. If you work, even if it's in public service,
We'll get started here in about 2 minutes. Easy. All right, good morning, everyone. We're changing PowerPoints real quick. Okay, good morning, everyone, and happy Saturday. And thank you for coming out, and we're very pleased to have you today. And just know that we are very casual here. We've got the cameras rolling, but please feel free to go in, down. The restrooms are outside. Jeff's going to explain that. The food is in the back. Drinks are in the back. So we welcome you here today to our postponed event in December. Maybe I shouldn't stand so close. And thank you for bearing with us through the snow and the bad weather. And we're very excited to have Mr. Zarnowski here from Boston, who Jeff is going to formally introduce in just a moment. So I'm going to keep my remarks very brief. What you're here today to do is to continue to learn and make your planning work. That's the whole theme of our client care program. So whether you're a Gary Greenwald client or an Eltville and Associates client, welcome. And along those lines, always remember that you can bring your family and friends. So we always want you to bring your guests or family and friends whenever you would like. And for those of you who have not had a family meeting yet at our firm, and you're part of the CCP program, make sure that you contact either Gary at his firm or Mary Gay Kramer at my firm to have your family meeting if you haven't had that yet. And if you haven't had your annual update yet, remember that at my firm, Mary is going to contact you to have that update meeting. We're going to make sure we always contact you and keep you informed, and Gary will do the same for his clients. Also, if there are specific issues that you're having and you want them worked out or something has not been resolved as part of your planning, make sure that's what part of your membership is for us to resolve those issues on an ongoing basis for you. So remember that we're committed to do that. Okay, a couple of other updates. I recently rented a production studio in Annapolis, Maryland. So in central Annapolis, right off of Chinkapin Round Road, we now have a video and audio production studio. What does that mean to you? That means that if you would like to do an archival legacy video, if we want to call that, to speak to your family through video or your goals and values and so forth that you would like them to know about, please let us know, because that's now part of your CCP membership. So if you want to do that, you're welcome to do that, and you can contact Jeff or I to do that. Jeff is going to talk a little bit more about our April 28th event, which is tax reform. So by then, I guess the government is going to be back up and running. I know someone's, like Glenn said this morning, they're going to be back up and running by Monday. So hopefully that's the case. But I'm going to go next week down to Orlando to listen to the greatest minds in the country, I guess, talk about tax reform and get my mind around it. And I'm going to come back back, and we're going to carry on top of this as well, and we're going to share our thoughts with you on April 28th. So we'll be right back here, as far as I know, April 28th at the same time. And we may bring a CPA as well. We may have this roundtable discussion with the estate planning side, the income tax planning side, and we'll bring a CPA as our plan. So with that, Jeff, I'm going to let you introduce Mr. Zarnowski. Oh, by the way, many of you are wearing your favorite jerseys. As you can see, I chickened out. But Mr. Zarnowski was going to wear his Patriots jersey, and I just thought that was hilarious. But anyway, he says he has it out of his car. But anyway, here you go, Jeff.
Thank you, Steve. It's great to see such a wonderful turnout today, and thank you for your commitment to your plan and being part of our firms and Mr. Greenwald's firm's client care programs. I see a lot of great jerseys out there. I see one Maryland jersey out there. Thank you so much for supporting the red, black, gold, and white. Go Terps. I should have worn mine today. And I also wanted to acknowledge our newest attorney is here today, Miss Megan McCulloch. You want to stand up, Megan? Megan specializes in Social Security issues and Social Security disability issues, and she works out of our Baltimore office. So welcome Megan to the firm. She's been here for about 4 months, I guess, at this point. So been a pleasure getting to know Megan, and I'm sure some of you may end up working with her as well. So it's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Kurt Zarnowski here as our primary speaker today. Mr. Zarnowski is currently the principal of Zarnowski Consulting, a retirement planning firm which provides expert answers to your Social Security questions. Mr. Zarnowski is the former Regional Communications Director for the Social Security Administration in New England, a position he held from December 1991 until his retirement at the end of 2010. He began his career with the SSA in 1976, and during his 34 years with the agency, he worked with several different management and staff positions in the Boston area. As Regional Communications Director, Mr. Zarnowski was responsible for coordinating the Social Security Administration's public affairs and public information activities in the 6 New England states. In this role, he was a frequent speaker at local and regional events for members of the public. He wrote the chapter on Social Security and retirement planning for the book, The 6 Secrets to a Happy Retirement, which was published by the ATA Press in March 2013. He is also a regular contributor to Retirement Weekly, a MarketWatch publication, and his answers to readers' Social Security questions are seen in both the print and online publications of USA Today. In March 2011, he joined the board of directors of the Massachusetts Association of Older Americans and is currently serving his 3rd year as president of that organization. He also serves on the Massachusetts Money Management Project's statewide advisory council and is a member of the New England Pension Assistant Project's advisory board, a native New Englander and a Patriots fan. Mr. Zarnowski received his bachelor's degree in history from Hamilton College in Clinton, New York, a master's degree in public administration from Northeastern University. He lives in Norfolk, Massachusetts with his wife Ann, and we're very pleased to have him here today. Mr. Kurt Zarnowski, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. Good to be here. Jeff said Kurt Zarnowski, currently the principal in Zarnowski Consulting. Those 1 or 2 in the room that are intimately familiar with us, proud to say we're an international consulting firm whose world headquarters conveniently located in the basement of my house in Norfolk, Massachusetts. But don't worry, at Zarnowski Consulting, we always say we provide expert answers to your Social Security questions. Why can I say that simple? Jeff referenced, I worked for the Social Security Administration for 34 years, last 20 years of my career. I was a communications director in New England, which meant I spent my time out talking to folks about the program. And here's what I found out. Believe it or not, the Social Security program is now a little over 82 years old. And each and every month, the Social Security Administration pays about $77 billion in benefits. About 42 million people. On top of that, there's another 173 million folks, like many of you in this room, are now out there working and paying into the program. And what I saw during my time with the agency, and now I'm out on my own, is despite the age of the program, by the size of the program. That's by the economic impact that Social Security has in the country today. Unfortunately, the myths and misunderstandings that are out there about what it is as well as what it is, are frankly staggering. It's huge. Nobody knows nothing about the program. So that's why I'm really excited to accept the invitation to spend the next 7 or 8 hours with you. Hey, don't worry, there's dinner coming too. I'll spend a little time talking about some things I think it's important for you to know about what the program is, perhaps equally importantly what it isn't. Why it's so important these days, simple 2 words: baby boomers. 75 million bucks. Baby boomers storming towards retirement, just not starting to wake up to the fact that the retirement world staring us in the face is different than faced by parents and their grandparents. We're starting to recognize that the Social Security program as a guaranteed stream of lifetime income may well be a bigger part of our retirement income than we had ever anticipated. We're also recognizing we don't know as much about the program as we should. We're scrambling to catch up. So in our time together today, I want to give you some good, solid information, help you better understand what the program is, help you also recognize what it isn't, and set you down the road to that comfortable retirement we all hope to enjoy. Okay, most important slide in the deck is going to be this one. You'll hear me refer to it over and over again. The key message for me: people need to understand that when the Social Security program was created about 82 plus years or so ago, it was put in place designed to provide you simply with a base or foundation of income that you can count on being there for you each month. But it's a base or foundation of income that you must take steps to supplement, because it was never intended to be anyone's sole source of income in retirement. But unfortunately these days, about 23% of retiree couple households, the Social Security money that comes into them each month is virtually the only income they have. Terrible situations. I avoid that happening to you. Simple. By planning for your retirement, you'd be commended, taking time out of your busy schedule, spend a little time here this morning planning for retirement, learning about Social Security. Now, for the longest time, the Social Security Administration tried to play a very active role in helping you plan for your retirement. Because back in the day, they used to mail you on an annual basis a paper document, a Social Security statement. Statements started going out back in 1999. They were got on an annual basis. Anyone who was 25 years of age or older would ever paid into the program and was not yet collecting benefits. That statement would show up in your mailbox like clockwork about 3 months before your birthday each and every year. That statement, as you recall, used to give you important retirement planning information, benefit estimates at 3 ages, 62, your full retirement age is 70. The other thing it did so well was provide you a nice year-by-year breakout of what Social Security had recorded as your work and earnings under the program. And it was really important to get that statement, and particularly to review the earnings history there, because we'll see in a little bit what you eventually collect each month is directly related to what your work and earnings have been. So if a mistake had occurred in crediting you with some of your earnings, it was important to catch it and correct it, because if you didn't, it would have direct impact on what you eventually received. You may have noticed, hey, I haven't got one of those in the mail every year lately. What's the deal? Well, Social Security has changed the way they distribute Social Security statements, and first and foremost, they no longer mail paper documents on an annual basis to everyone over the age of 25. Instead, what they've done first and foremost is put in place a system whereby if you go to www.socialsecurity.gov/myaccount, it take about 10 or 15 minutes or so to set up your own individual Social Security account. A byproduct of having that account in place is you'll be able to download a Social Security statement for yourself whenever you want one. And I encourage you to do that if you haven't done it yet. But Social Security has also said they've decided to resume mailing paper documents, but on a very limited basis. And here they say right now is that if you are 60 years of age or older and haven't set up your own Social Security account, they will mail you a paper statement, same old schedule, about 3 months before your birthday on an annual basis. But that's it for mailings. So anyone under the age of 60, the only way you can get a Social Security statement is by setting up that individual Social Security account. But my view is, whether you're 60 or older, I think it makes sense to set up that Social Security account, because you're going to come in, meet with some folks, do some retirement planning. Having a current Social Security statement in hand is going to make that a more worthwhile exercise. So if you haven't set up your account, I encourage you to do that. Important byproduct right now, you will be able to get a Social Security statement for yourself whenever you want. And just think about the statement, as I mentioned. Get your benefit estimates only at 3 ages. 62, your full retirement age is 70. And in preparing the estimate in the statement, because Social Security has no idea what your future work plans are, they base the calculation on an assumption that you're gonna keep working, make the same amount of money you made for the past couple of years. We know as well as I do in planning for retirement, may be interested in collecting benefits in something other than just those 3 ages. May also be interested in figuring out what would happen to your Social Security benefit if you, I don't know, quit work on Monday and never went back to work. Or maybe went part-time in another couple of years. So I'll remind you about another planning tool you should avail yourself of. It's Social Security's online retirement estimator. Really, the estimator is you work with your own Social Security earnings record without the need to go back and key in all of your prior year earnings like you have to with certain other commercial software products. But now with the online estimator, you can develop what-if scenarios. Your heart's content. You want to find out how much you get each month from Social Security if you started to collect it, I don't know, 64 and a half, or 68 and 8 months, or whatever age you're interested in. And or you can find out what would happen to your Social Security benefit if you did indeed quit work on Monday. Or maybe went part-time next year, perhaps even took a second job. So both of those retirement planning tools earned a benefit on your own that exceeds what you could collect on your spouse's Social Security work record. You don't get both at once. So again, with a windfall, you're always going to get something, but with government pension offset, if 2/3 of your pension is more than what you could collect on your spouse's work record, you don't get anything more. Yes, sir?
You know, I haven't talked anything about if someone is collecting disability Social Security. What happens if the spouse is divorced, they're collecting Social Security disability, but can they collect on their former spouse's record if that amount would be greater than their disability?
Yes. So as they're collecting disability, the amount Social Security paid on disability is as if someone is at full retirement age. If that amount is less than 50% of their ex's full retirement age amount, they're going to be due some additional money. Absolutely.
And does the ex-spouse have to be collecting for them to collect the spousal?
In divorced spousal cases, no. Has to be at least age 62. Divorce has to have been finalized at least 2 years ago. But the ex doesn't need to be collecting in divorced spousal cases. All right. Like Lady Godiva, I must come to my close. Oh, come on, throw me a bone on my way out of here, huh? I always like to end up where I started. Just a quick reminder, we've covered a lot of stuff. If you haven't, take questions. If you haven't, I know Sergei Ovechkin has some things he wants to cover. Just a reminder, Social Security is a hugely important program, but you got to recognize designed to provide that base, that foundation of income, but it was never intended to be your only source of income in retirement. Sooner you recognize that, take steps to supplement it, more likely are to have that comfortable retirement all of us Patriot fans hope to enjoy. So I thank you for your time, and I'll step aside for a moment. I'm going to hang around and take questions.
Kurt, thank you. Was that incredible? Yes. I thought that was just incredible. Kurt, I have the question, I think it's in some people's minds. Where do you go to make this decision? Who should you rely on to make these decisions?
So it's important to understand the role of the folks at the Social Security Administration. They're not financial advisors. They can't tell you what you should do. Their role is much in the same way that I talked about today. They can help you understand what you can do, but they can't tell you what you should do. So in going in and talking to folks at Social Security, you can't go in, sit down and say, what should I do? My advice instead is have done research like we talked about today, and then when you go and sit down with somebody at Social Security, pose the question is, well, can I do? For example, you go in and say, I just want to take my spousal benefit right now. I'm 62 right now. I just want to take my spousal benefit and take my own at 70. They're going to go, no, you can't do that. Because you were born after January 1st, 54, you always have to take your own first. So again, you got to do a little bit of research. The Social Security website has a great deal of information. You know, talking to experts is always good. But you can't you don't count on the Social Security folks to act in the role of advisor and tell you what you should do. Hopefully they're giving you accurate information about what you can do, but ultimately deciding what you should do that's your choice.
And Kurt, are you available for further consulting?
Oh, absolutely.
All right, very good. Just wanted to know And your contact information is on the handout.
Yeah.
Very good, very good. And I just want to say before Gary comes up and makes his remarks, the client event, those of you who were not at the client event a couple of months ago, that video is now available. So if you would like to get the client event video, you were not able to attend, please let us know. And I wanted to, before we adjourn, I wanted to thank Jeff for being here today and for all of his hard work in the background there and setting up. And Gary, your remarks.
Thank you, Steve. When Steve told me about Kurt, I didn't really know what to expect, but I got to tell you, I was absolutely impressed. I was really glad that I was here. I learned a lot, and we have, what, 6 more hours left to go on our seminar today? Our next event is going to be on Saturday morning, April 28th, right here at 10 a.m. We're going to have a roundtable discussion on the new rules regarding income taxes and estate taxes. So Steve and I will be part of the roundtable. We're pretty sure we're going to have a CPA as well. We expect a full house. So if you're here now, there is, at least in the folders for my clients, there's an invitation sheet, an information sheet, and you'll be able to respond. I also wanted to let the clients of my firm know that the studio that Steve talked about earlier this morning is available for our clients as well. So if you have an interest in that, feel free to contact me. I wanted to first of all thank Jeff also for all of your work regarding this event. I ought to also thank my beautiful bride in the back, Donna, who helped us greet people as they came in. So Donna, thank you very much. I also wanted to point out a guest, Mark Spitler from First Command Financial is also sitting in the back. Some of my clients here may be working with Mark, so if you didn't see him in the back of the room, he's still there in the back of the room. And finally, I'd like to bring my wife up here, Donna. We have a drawing. The invitation said that you had to wear some team gear in order to be eligible, but I think we included everybody in the drawing, so let me tell you what the prize will be. Kurt will be very interested in knowing this. 4 tickets to see the Orioles play the Boston Red Sox this summer. So the tickets have not yet been printed.
That's right, I'll draw it.
No, you won't. The tickets have not yet been printed. As soon as they are, the winner, if you have my contact information, just give me a call in about a month or so. I'll get your information as well. I'll write it down. One way or the other will get you the tickets. So Donna, without peeking, nobody wearing any Patriots gear is eligible. Just pick a number.
Hope I made somebody happy.
So what's the number?
866-7957.
Mine!
So who's got that number? All right. My pleasure. So thank you everybody for coming. Kurt is still here. I think he'll be happy to answer some questions afterwards. See you on April 28th. It's going to be a full house, so please don't forget to make your reservations either with Steve or Jeff and to our email address, which is on the invitation. Thank you so much.
Quick reminder too, handouts on the way in. I brought plenty, so if you had friends who couldn't join us today, you want to take some of them, please feel free to take handouts for them as well. And I understand today's video presentation will be streaming on Netflix and available at Redbox Video.